We are live officially. I'm so excited here. Even though we were just talking, even though the time changes in terms of daylight and this time of morning, because we record these, in case anyone doesn't know, we record these at 6 a.m. Um, even though the time changes and the daylight changes, that alarm clock still goes off at the same time.
Yes, it does.
And hence why, I always have my coffee here. So for anyone who doesn't know, I am Kirk M Samuels, the Intimacy Incubator, and I try to connect people with common themes in their lives. And first of all, part of my mission statement is to co-create a world of intimacy and unconditional connection. And so part of that is to create conversation and discussion around topics that are key and vital to a lot of people's lives, and invite dynamic people on to have conversations. The first and third Wednesdays of the month, I target the conversations to women, and the second and fourth, I target the conversations to men. They're not exclusive. It's just the topics that I have just happen to commonly relate more to one than the other. And so today I have, yet again, this is the second time, because the first time was so awesome. This is the second time I have my good friend, great friend, somebody I look up to and somebody I admire tremendously, Barbra Russell. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. It's a great Wednesday.
Is it early where you are?
It is early. I have my cup of coffee also.
Gotcha. It's still the same time of day where you are. Both of us being here in the Denver metro area. So for those that don't know, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a counselor. As far as therapist, you're a speaker. You're an author. You do a whole lot of things. You got more titles than the library. And so you're just a dynamic individual, and that's why I like having you on here. I need to point out one very crucial thing that happened since the last time we were on, though. First of all, your book, Yes, I Said No, How to Set Healthy Boundaries and Increase Your Self-Esteem, we can now say is the award-winning book. The award-winning book.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That was so exciting to receive that publishing award in the area of self-help, of course. And so it was a fun evening. We had an awards banquet, and Ward Lucas was there to present the awards. And this was just kind of something, the publisher said, you should submit your book. It was months ago, and then you just kind of don't think about it. After all, this was my very first book. And so it was indeed an honor, a surprising honor, but I loved it. It was so great.
So what's the award?
So the award is called the Evie Award, and it is from the CIPA, which is the Colorado Independent Publishers Association. And so they look at all of the self-published books and any ones that are submitted in different categories. And then they go through an exacting criteria to look at ones that they want to pick out and honor as award winners.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm hesitant to point out that they did not pick my book.
Let's see. Did you submit it?
Which was submitted. Yes, I did submit it. I'm not bitter or anything, I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just saying I'd submitted mine too.
Well, hey,
and there was a long list, and I scrolled and mine.
There was a long list.
There must have just been so many fantastic books. Or maybe mine just didn't make it in the mail. I don't know.
Yeah, you wonder sometimes. Hey, they're waiting for your book number 2.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. But I'm not bitter. Don't get me wrong.
Well, that's good. You don't need counseling or anything?
I'll make an appointment when we get off the call.
Okay, all right.
Some things I need to unpack. Hey, it's so funny. I have a copy of your book that I bought at the book launch, and I would have it here, although somebody saw it in my house and they borrowed it using the air quotes. They borrowed it, which I almost hesitate to say, because I know that I'd much rather people say I bought the book than I borrowed the book, but whatever. But they borrow the book, air quotes, and I'm still waiting for that book back. And that person, I think, is listening right now.
Well, you know what? I'll just have to get you another one. I have one right here, so I'll have to get it to you.
You need to get one of those badges that go in the book now that it's an award-winning book.
Oh, I know. You know, I actually ordered that, and this one I forgot to fill in. Man, yeah. It goes down in the corner and says award winner, medal winner.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Thanks.
So let me just touch real briefly. We talked about the book last time as well, but a couple things buried in your or within your subtitle that I thought interesting this morning. It just stood out to me. So the whole premise, I mean, yes, I said no. I mean, you know, as far as the title, but in your subtitle says how to set healthy boundaries. First of all, is there such thing as unhealthy boundaries?
Probably when you do it for the wrong reasons, or the way that you do that, because usually when people wind up setting boundaries, it's because they have taken it and taken it and taken it, so to speak, up, and they're up to here, or they've said yes so many times that they are just overwhelmed or burnt out. And so usually an unhealthy response would be if they just blow up and have a fight, which is the unfortunate way that I learned about setting boundaries. And when there was that big fight, then I lost a friendship. So that is not a healthy boundary at all. The other ways, people will just start avoiding people, or they will just get out of somebody's life. And so they miss out on a good relationship that they could have had if they just knew how to do it the right way and make it a healthy boundary.
Wow. And then the second part of the subtitle says increase your self-esteem. Can I imply from that when you have unhealthy boundaries, that can affect your self-esteem?
I think it does. And the reason that I put those two together is they go together so well. Because people, let's take it like for me, when I had the fight with my friend and wound up losing the friendship, I felt horrible. It did not make me feel good at all about myself. I felt guilty on top of all of the resentment, but then I had all of these mixed emotions. But when I was able to learn and set boundaries for the very first time even, I felt so good about myself that it increased my self-esteem. That raises confidence. Then when you have more confidence, it's more easy then to set additional healthy boundaries, because you've learned the way to do it. So there is definitely the correlation. And when you don't have boundaries, I guarantee you there's a part of you that does not feel good about you.
And so then do you grow resentment not only towards the other person, but resentment even maybe towards yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Usually it shows up for the other person first. And then you're resentful of them. But then there's this kind of self-talk that begins to go on. Well, I know I should have said something. I know I shouldn't have done this. And then you become resentful toward yourself even.
Wow. Now, since, I mean, we're targeting this conversation, generally speaking, towards women,
Right.
And of which you are one and have been one your entire life.
Right.
So you know very well, and you know through your life what that experience is like, having all of these different roles that women can often find themselves filling in the course of a day, and a week, and a month, and in their lifetime, probably at one time. Is it common for women to just have so many titles or so many roles kind of in their life? And I mean, what does that look like? Help me understand that.
I think it is. In fact, research now is showing that up to 90% of women and 95% of men actually are reporting work home place conflict. They don't know how to handle all of those roles. They're busy. So many women are working in the workplace now. So they're working at work, they're working at home, they're trying to be all of those different aspects and put on those different hats and wear the different roles. And so if they don't know how to set those healthy boundaries to get a balance, wow, they're just gonna, it will be too much. And then we know all of the bad effects that stress can have. They are getting stressed out when they're feeling all of this conflict. There's too much to do, not enough hours in the day to get it done.
What kind of roles do women find themselves getting like stressed out, or I mean, what does that look like for? I mean, I'm a guy, so help me understand, right? I mean, make it easy.
Right, right.
I mean, we don't see that because I mean, guys compartmentalize, and so we don't see kind of everything flowing together. So from so what does it look like when a woman has so many roles in a day? What kind of roles are those?
Yeah, because as you said, the guys can really focus singularly. They're thinking of one thing at a time. And so when they go to work, they're thinking of work and they're doing their best job, and that's it. When they come home, they just want to relax or they can be with their family. But women, with all of those complexities in their brains and the neurotransmitter connections, I'm going to be talking about that at a conference, by the way, coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't lose that. They don't leave it. They don't forget. They're thinking about, you know, little Johnny and Susie at work, or they may get the call from the school and they've got to go do something. So they're at work trying to be very productive and their best there. And then they're thinking of home and they're wondering about the kids. Maybe they're thinking, I've got to think of something to prepare for dinner, and then I've got to get the kids running around and do everything. But I've also volunteered to help out on this committee. And so women have a lot of interests. They have a lot of caring, which is a great strength for women, but they can certainly get overwhelmed by trying to think of all of those things. And let's say maybe they've added going back to school. Then here's another thing that is on their plate, and plate just gets higher and higher.
Mm-hmm. Now, does that, and then I would imagine that maybe they might come home or have a spouse or significant other in their life that don't even see any of that as far as everything that she has going on. And so maybe at the same time, they don't necessarily feel supported in all of those roles.
Right, right. That can happen very, very commonly. Like you say, you know, if we don't know better, we just kind of assume that people handle things like we do. So let's use the example of most men and most women. So here he's able to compartmentalize, and he thinks that she can too. And so he's just thinking, okay, well, she's got it all handled. She's doing whatever. And then he doesn't give that support. A lot of times what women have to do is learn to ask for help instead of thinking, I can do this all myself.
Wow. So, wow, that actually great segue into, so when we talk about transitioning into how to help her in this scenario, I mean, first of all, I mean, the obvious end of that road is her feelings is spread thin and her feelings is overwhelmed and those sorts of things. And so when she feels, ideally before she even gets to that point, I mean, what are some tools that she might implement in order to keep from getting too spread thin?
Yeah, because that is so important. Well, one, as I said, is that women can learn to ask for help. And a lot of times, just subconsciously, they just keep going and going and going and going. And also, women are very intuitive. And they think, oh, well, everybody should notice. My husband certainly should notice that I am overwhelmed and I've got these screaming kids and I'm trying to fix supper, and he should just walk up and do something. And he seems clueless to her then that's more resentment on her part.
Mm-hmm.
So asking for help is a big one. Another one, though, I also had to learn, you know, we learn our lessons the hard way, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the interesting lessons I did learn when I went back to school, my husband and I went back to school together, and we were both working a full-time job. We traveled for an hour to go to school in the evening after we worked. We had homework that went along with that. And one of the professors said the very first night, okay, welcome to class. What are you going to give up now that you have taken this on?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of just hit me and has stuck with me over the years, because it was a simple question, but really we don't usually think about that. We just think about, I'm going to do this and do this. So now I'm working, now I'm going to school, and now, but I had to think, so what am I going to give up? The hours in the day did not change. My work schedule did not change. My home commitments did not change. So what am I going to have to do? And what am I going to have to give up? And it was interesting what we did.
Wow. And then do women feel guilty when they feel like they can't do everything to the best of everyone else's expectations?
I think they generally do. The healthier that you get and the more that you set boundaries, then you realize that the relief is so much greater, then you don't have to feel so guilty. So for example, one of the things that my husband and I gave up, so to speak, was a quantity that turned into a quality. And by that, I mean, we used to just meet our friends, you know, at the spur of the moment, the drop of the hat. We would go out for dinner, we would have coffee, you know, it just kind of happened. Well, that was one of the things that we decided we needed to just plan. And so we actually started making a regular schedule that we're going to meet with our friends, and the rest of the time we are not available for those impromptu dinners or going out to coffee. And we did miss that and felt probably a little anxious about it at first. But as I said, when we changed that quantity to the quality, then we relished our times together because it wasn't as much.
Sometimes it sounds like sometimes you kind of need to settle into the fact that you can't do everything.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And wrestling with that decision, probably, because I think there is this kind of unspoken rule that women in particular that we're talking about are super women, and they're going to do everything, and they can do it very well. And so we kind of buy into that. And so to having to realize, no, I'm really not Superwoman, you know, I can do all of these things, but not those over there. So you have to kind of get a mindset, and that's okay. That's part of self-care. That's another thing I think women need to learn. We kind of intuitively, we're nurturers. We care for others. And a lot of times we can give to others so much, we don't have anything to give to ourselves.
Mm. Wow, self-care must be extremely important. And, you know, I think in terms of you know, Superwoman versus, you know, I like to for some reason, as soon as you said that, I actually pictured Wonder Woman. And, you know, there's a lot of things that Wonder Woman can do, and she's super strong, and, you know, she's a great, you know, warrior princess, and, you know, she has the little bracelets that can block bullets and the lasso that can make you tell the truth. But Wonder Woman can't fly.
No.
And so even Wonder Woman has her limits. And there's some things that even Wonder Woman, being the great warrior princess that she is, can't do. And as soon as you said that, that's the first image that popped into my mind.
And that is a great image. That is true. Because it is true. I mean, look at it. Women are still doing incredibly great things and wonderful things and amazing things for their family, for their job, for the world. They're making a difference. But yeah, there's just some things that they can't do, and that might change from season to season. You know, when the kids are little, that might be a different look than when the kids are older. They all are going to have their demands. What about when the kids are gone and you have empty nest? And so planning and actually thinking through those things is an important aspect for what women need to do so that they can still be superwomen even if they can't fly.
Yeah. Do they have to get good at giving themselves grace for the things that they cannot do?
I think so. I think so. And oftentimes we're our own worst enemy in that way. So I like your phrase. I think we have to learn as women to give grace to ourselves. We can give grace to others a lot easier than we can to ourselves. And so actually saying, yes, that's okay, and you're okay if you can't do it all. And if you have to say no sometimes, and if you have to parcel out your time. And the more you do that in a healthy way, again, not, you know, being passive aggressive or anything like that, but you do it healthily and you feel good about yourself, others will respect that. And people generally, they might not like it. Let's say you've been serving on a committee and you say, sorry, now I can't do that. Well, of course they wanted you on the committee. They might not be happy. They might give you a little pushback on that. But whenever you are just calm and firm, you're not angry, you're just regretful that you can't do that, then they will learn to respect that and respect you as a woman for saying and being truthful and not lying. We lie a lot, even though we don't like to say that.
Really? Wait a minute. Let me go back on the recording. Can you say that again, please? I'm sorry.
That about we lie a lot?
No, but how do you mean that?
I mean by that is that somebody will say, hey, can you be on my committee, let's say, for example, can you help out with this? Oh, sure, I would love to, you say. And because that's the other thing that we get trapped into is we want to please people, and we do like that. It's not as though we don't have an interest, but we say yes. And so then we realize, oh no, I really can't do that. Oh, this is when I've got to run around and I've got to take Johnny to this and do that, and Sally has her. And so we wind up making an excuse that says, oh, wow, you know, I'm just not feeling really good. I'm not going to be able to help. We lie. Mm-hmm. But we don't think about it lying. We think about making excuses. But every time when we're just not forthcoming, then we wind up lying. And that's not a value trait that most people like to say that they have. But once you face the truth, I've been lying and I need to be straightforward, I need to be honest, it can change things.
Wow. What kind of ways can, what kind of things are involved in the whole notion of self-care for women? Like what kind of things can women do to fill their own cup or to take care of themselves?
I believe one of the most important things is to give themselves time. And because again, with all of those roles and hats that they're wearing, to give themselves time. And it doesn't have to be a long thing. A lot of times we think, oh, I need a day out. But hey, even saying, all right, husband, watch the kids for 30 minutes. I'm going to go soak in the bathtub. I think that is a great time to just get away and have some time to themselves. Another thing that self-care is really important is that you do something that you really enjoy so that you are recharged, not just recovering, which is important. So you might just be recovering in the bathtub and soaking. But if you're spending another 30 minutes, and maybe that again applies to the same thing that my professor said, what are you going to give up in order to take this on? But let's say when I was writing my book, and I really enjoyed it, even though that's a hard task, as you know. But then I gave up some evening time that I would have just been watching TV or reading a book. And so I gave that up, but it was so energizing and so fulfilling that I was glad I did. And so I think finding the time and then making the time refreshing, that can be something that will recharge you no matter what that is. And scheduling it routinely, that you have this kind of in your routine. It's not just when you're exhausted and all of a sudden you say, oh, I've got to take some time for myself. Is that you say every Saturday morning, here's what I'm doing, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there, I know you, and I know both of us are really kind of believe in the holistic nature of a person. Does she need to fill her cup in all of those ways, the physical, spiritual, mental? I mean, does she specifically and intentionally need to target kind of certain parts of her in order to take care of herself?
That obviously is the optimum. And I think you can kind of, set it out like a pie chart or a balance wheel and say, yeah, I've got this going pretty well. I'm eating pretty well. I'm getting enough sleep. But wow, how about spiritually? Am I really spending time in prayer with the word or whatever? How about relationally with my family, with my friends? So you do have to take a look at that. I think you can be overwhelmed if you look at it all at once and say, oh my God, I'm so deficient in so many areas. But if you are truthful and just lay it out and say, wow, this is really an area that I'd like to focus on, and choose that week to focus on it, or that month, or whatever works it out. And then looking at, because you do need to look at all of those areas, because we are body, soul, mind, spirit. We're working together, and whenever our body is good, it can support that spiritual being that we are, and vice versa, and it goes in a productive circle. And so we look at those areas, say, yeah, I think I need to spend some more time here, and then deliberately, intentionally go after it.
Can counseling help her kind of break that down and help her make that happen in her life?
Well, as a counselor, I think counseling helps everybody,
Yeah.
every time, everything.
That's what you call a setup. That's what you call a setup.
That's right.
I set them up, you knock them down. Hey, how can people get a hold of you?
They can give me a call, or they can look at my website. My number is 720-263-6257. And my website is www.barbrarussell.com. And that's Barbra, like Barbra Streisand, B-A-R-B-R-A, BarbraRussell.com. I'm also on social media. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I post an inspirational moment every day, and I love to connect with people in that way.
Where's your counseling practice? Where do you do counseling?
So I have a part-time practice on Fridays in my home office. And then because during the week I am still working as the director of the counseling ministry at the Potter's House.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned earlier a conference. What is that all about?
Oh, yes. The Whole and Free Women's Conference is going to be the end of this month, the 28th and 29th. And that's going to be at Bridgeway Church. I'm actually going to be the keynote speaker on Saturday, talking about his brain, her brain, and those differences between men and women. And so women are invited, but I understand some men are going to sneak in too.
We have a way of doing that. Now, is there a website for that, or how can people find that out?
Yes, there is. And again, you can find links on Facebook probably, but it is Whole and Free Women. And if you go to that wholeandfreewomen.com, then you can register, and it will be Friday evening from 6 to 9, and then all day Saturday. There's a variety of workshops and speakers, so it's going to be an awesome conference.
And if I'm not mistaken, Bridgeway Churches, that's at like Evans and 25, right? Coming right in there.
Right. It's around that area off of Holly. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic church. I've been there a couple of times. A buddy of mine got married at that church during one of the church services. Is phenomenal. Thank you so much. I'd actually like to leave folks with a little word of encouragement if you're watching this. And again, I'm going to target women here. And my word of encouragement is, and I kind of just been feeling it throughout this conversation here this morning, is that you are enough. Whoever you are, and I think I might have even said this before, because it seems to be a common theme that comes up in a lot of these webinars, but you are absolutely enough, not just by what you do, but by who you are. You're a special human being. You're gifted. You're talented. You're a servant. But all of that just comes from your heart. It doesn't come through all the things that you can do. And your value is not in your doing. Your value is in your being. And you are absolutely enough in your being. You are fantastic. You were made by a loving God that just created you awesome and perfect and beautiful and special. And you are a gift to this world. Whoever you are, I hope that can just leave someone with a little nugget of feel goods today, all up in your feelings. Barbara, thank you so much for this conversation.
Absolutely.
You're fantastic, man. I love you, everything you do. I love your team, your staff. Your husband's a great guy. I mean, your son is cool. I mean, I just thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. I'm a blessed woman.
Thank you. Time here this morning, and we will absolutely be in touch.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.